Hello peeps, Donna Kato here. Welcome to my channel, welcome to my studio, and welcome to this little tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it a lot. So, what do you do when you find something that's like, I don't know how old this is. It was at the bottom of a box. And I sort of vaguely remember what I was going to do with it. I believe I was going to make it a ring. Maybe. Personally, I think maybe they'd be nice cufflinks, you know. Anyway, so I found it and I looked at it and I thought, well, you know what? These are, this thing I made, I like it. I like it. It may be old, but I think it's a goodie. And I also thought, you know what? This would be a nice earring. Yeah, not difficult to make. Very simple. Doesn't require a lot of experience with polymer clay. And so I thought, well, what the heck? Let's make earrings. So that's what we're going to make in this little class, are some earrings. In this class, you'll learn this cane, you'll learn silk screening, and you'll even paint a little clay to make some polymer clay donuts. Yeah, so let's get started. We got some earrings to make. Now, this is what I call a balanced jelly roll. And I devised this method to make this jelly roll because when I made jelly rolls many times, I was not satisfied with the centers. And if you do what I'm going to show you now, the center of your jelly roll will always look like that, where it's equally balanced between the two colors if you start with sheets that are the same thickness. Okay, so this is called the balanced jelly roll. I'm going to start with black and white so you see it more clearly. And these sheets have been rolled through, the thickest setting of my pasta machine. So I'm going to put one on top of the other and then cut to trim. I make a lot of these. I find that I use this particular jelly roll a lot in my work. So just trim the four sides. And now this will be rolled through the pasta machine to thin it. So let's reset the machine to the next setting. So I'm putting the short end on the rollers. Thin it further. And I think I will go down to setting number 5. Now this is quite thin. You see how thin the sheets are. But when you make this cane, you have to bear in mind that because of the way it's made, the actual pattern will be twice the thickness of the black and twice the thickness of the white, because we're going to fold it in half. So just remember that. All right. Try to push any air pockets out from between the layers. Just work the bubbles to the edges and push them out. Now at this raw edge, I'm going to take my blade and angle it and cut away. Now let's roll from the fold. All right, we'll take a cut, and then you can see what the pattern looks like. There you go. And you can see that the very center is balanced between the black and the white. This one is finer. I think I rolled this one down through setting number 6. This was rolled through setting number 5. Okay, let's make some painted rings. Now I've got my black clay rolled through setting number 5. Now this seems to be a good standard setting for me in most instances. Never really needed anything much thicker. So this is how we begin. You want to press the clay to your tile as firmly as you can, and see, I really want it to stick. Like so. Now the next thing I'm going to do is start cutting the actual rings. Let me grab my various cutters, because this is what you're going to need. Cutters. And if you know how big you want them, then of course you're going to make them that size. For this demonstration, I don't really have a specific size I want, so I'm just going to make a lot of different sizes. So first, I'm going to cut. Now that is the overall size of the piece. Let's do some of these, like so. And then let's say I want to make a ring that's rather thin, so I will look for a cutter that will go just inside, right inside. But you know, it can't be too thin. That's not right. Let's see this. Is this a good one? Yeah, this is a good size. So now I've centered it over the cut disc, the original one, and there is a little ring. Now I'm going to leave that center piece in. After it's cured, I pop everything out. So just do your best. Now let's say you want a donut with a thicker wall. Then of course you're going to pick a cutter that's going to give you a different look. Now let's see, this looks pretty close to the other one, but you can see it's just a slightly thicker ring. If you want something with a very thick ring, then of course you're going to select an even smaller cutter and make a donut with a smaller hole but a thicker ring. Thicker ring. Now I also take small ones like this and I will just make dots. I find that these are also very useful. Okay, so let's just make a row of those. You can even make really, really tiny ones. Now, this is why you want this clay to be really stuck to the tile, because I want the clay to stick to the tile and not come up and stick inside the cutter. And I leave space around. I'm not going to pack them too tightly together. Because it's a bit easier to remove the clay from around all these little cut circles if I leave some space between them. All right, so I'm not going to do more because I don't really need more at this point. So let's just start pulling the clay up from around. And you see how I'm stretching it? I'm stretching it a little bit like that, and then lifting slowly, because what I want are all of these cutouts to stay right there on the tile. And I lost one stuck in. You see, it's right there. I'll just leave it. But that's also why you're going to want to cut extra. Okay, now it's at this point that I'm going to go ahead and dab this acrylic paint on. I use iridescent rich gold. Liquitex, it's my favorite gold. It's not quite as yellow as some gold paints can be. I like it very much. Now, as I'm dabbing, I'm trying not to get a lot of paint in that, see that ring, the channel created by that second cutout? I don't really want to pack that with paint because, as I said, after this is cured, I'm going to push that center right out. Okay, and it's probably going to take about 3 coats. So let me let this dry, and then I'll come back, do it again. I'll let it dry, come back again. But you have to let the paint dry in between. Now, it doesn't have to be so dry, like you don't have to let it dry for days. It just has to be dry to the touch, so that if you touch something and you lift your finger, you don't bring paint up. This is still wet. I went like that, and I lifted up some paint, so it's not ready for the second coat. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so I have 3 coats on. This is ready to be cured. Now, I've had this question. Why are you painting black clay instead of gold clay? Well, I found that actually the black clay underneath sort of makes the gold brighter on the surface because the paint is not really opaque. So you see a bit of it through, and you probably noticed that when I did it the first coat, there was still some of that black showing. But I've tried gold, and it doesn't look the same to me. It doesn't have that same glow to it, so that's why I use black. Okay, this is going in the oven. The paint is still wet, doesn't matter. Paint's still wet. But it's going into the oven, and then I'll be back. All right, so these are out of the oven. They're still a little bit warm, but that's okay. So you're just going to remove them from your tile like this. Just like so. Okay, and they're ready for you to use in any way you see fit. Now, cleaning the tile is pretty simple. You're just going to take your blade and just scrape the paint off the tile. Okay, now let me show you how simple it is to take one of these and just eliminate that center hole. I usually use a ball stylus, and then I just punch it out like that. Yeah, just like that. Now, I store these together. I'll show you. Just keep punching the holes out. You can punch them out later. You don't have to do it right now. But where'd it go? I can't. There it is. So you can see I have many different ones that I just keep. Then when I need one, or I need maybe a little guy like that, I know where to look. So these will all go in here, like so.
Hey, Donna.
Hello, Donna Kato here. Welcome to my channel and another tutorial, a part in the series of black and white tutorials that we will be using to make a disc necklace, and you know what? Maybe more than that. So anyway, the topic of this tutorial is silk screening. And I have to tell you, I am far from an expert at silk screening. I've just, sort of touched the surface of it. And I'm sure there are other people who could tune you into the finer points, but I'm just going to give you a brief overview. Now, I have a screen here that was made by Moiko. And the thing about Moiko Silk Screens is that she has an experience and a history in fabrics and the silk screening on fabric. So she understands the quality differences in the silk screen materials. So her silk screen material is gauged for thousands of runs. Okay, so it's very good material. Now, I had her make this for me. She's really sweet. And the way you use it is of course, you have your raw clay. I have rolled this through setting number 6, and so it's quite thin. And I put it on a piece of deli paper. So that will go right on. And the way I know I'm using the right side is that I can read her logo, Moiko. So if I can read that, then I know that the screen is on the right side. The right side is down. The right side is up and the correct side is down. Okay. Now, let's talk about paint. In the past, when I silk screened, I would use very expensive paint, my tubed acrylic paints, because I frankly didn't know any better. And then I saw her at a show, and she was just using paints like this. And you know what? Not only are they a lot less expensive, but they're also quite a bit easier to clean from the screen. So I had been paying more to make my life harder. So I'm here to tell you that you can use cheap paint, cheap acrylic paints, when you silk screen, and you'll be fine, fine, fine. And it's easier to clean out of the screen. All right, so I put this down. Now, another thing, acrylic paint cures. It has a cure time. That cure time could be a day, 2 days, a week, whatever. When you use this acrylic paint, you'll be able to touch the surface of it pretty quickly, but that doesn't mean that it's cured. That does not mean that it's totally dry. Now, here's the thing. If you let this totally dry on the clay, it is not usable, because you will have lost the bond between the paint and the clay. It will peel off. All right? So this paint has to be slightly tacky when you cure it. And I don't mean tacky on the top. I mean tacky where it's in contact with the clay. So I hope you understand that. You want to make your silk screen sheets shortly before you use them. And you also don't want to make them and set them on a shelf and leave them there for a month. Right? Not usable anymore. So if anybody has any questions about that, you can put them in the comments. Now, each paint is different. Maybe a tubed acrylic takes a longer time to cure, maybe less. I don't know. Maybe that duration, that period of time varies from one type of paint, one manufacturer to another. Maybe Delta is different than Deco Art. It's chemistry. I almost flunked chemistry in high school, so you don't want to ask me questions about chemistry very much. Okay, so I'm going to give this a shake, and then we're going to use it. It's been sitting in a drawer on its side for maybe a year, maybe 2 years. As I said, I don't silk screen very often. Okay, so let's hope that's good. Okay. All right, so now I'm just going to put down just a bead of the paint. Then I'm going to take my handy dandy Moiko plastic paint spreader. And I'm going to spread the paint across the silk screen. You can see I didn't put that much paint down there, and it just completely spread across. I'm happy. All right, now I'm going to peel it off. Hello. Peel it off. And it's beautiful. Okay, set this aside. And you want to have this prepared. Water. I'm just going to pop that in there. And I'm just going to wash it. Try to get as much of the paint out as possible. And you don't want to just sit, you don't want to leave this in there, okay? You think, oh, it's acrylic paint, it's in the water, it's gonna be fine. I can come back later or a week later and it'll still be, you know, no. Acrylic paint cures in water as well. Okay, so you've got to really work to get it out of the screen. And I do most of my rubbing on the side where I can read. See, I'm still reading Moiko. Well, this is the side I'm going to rub a little harder on, because I think the other side is slightly raised. Okay, so you want to really work at getting it off. Okay, that looks pretty good, but now, see, that was my wash. Now I'm going to set aside my wash, and I'm going to put it in fresh water and rinse it off and work a little harder at it. Make sure that I have all the paint out of the screen. It's kind of tough right there on the edge, but I don't think that's a problem. Okay, now once you've got the paint out, then you just lay it out on a towel, like so, okay? So that wasn't terribly difficult, and believe me, if you use expensive paint, it is more difficult. That paint really wants to stick inside. Let me move all this water out of the way. And then we'll continue. Okay. So you can see that's a very simple process. It is not difficult. And I think the result is quite nice. So, you know, I'm going to let this dry a bit, and then I will cut it out and make a sample, because I'm making samples of all the things that we're doing in the series. Okay, so if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I will try to answer if I know the answer. If you liked this, if you learned something from it, then please definitely like and subscribe. And let me think, what else can I tell you? I guess the only thing I have to say is thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And until we meet again, goodbye. Okay, so I've got my silk screened dots. I use the Moiko screen, I'll show you. And I've got some lime green, and I have a balanced jelly roll. So we're ready to make earrings. So here are my originals. Now I've changed up, of course, the color scheme. It's not red, lime green, not gold dots, little silver, looks like snowfall actually, but that's what I'm going to use instead. Now, You know, that lime green is kind of translucent. Yeah, because there's so much yellow in it. So much yellow. And you know, I don't even think there's any white in there. So what do I have to do? You guys know I have to protect that color from the influence of that one. How do I do that? White. No, this has been rolled through setting number 4. That's plenty thick. I could actually make it thinner. Let's go through 6. Fine. This is really all I need to protect that clay from this color. Yuppers. Okay. Now, if I didn't do this, what would happen? You know what would happen? This color would get muddy. Get a little bit darker. Yeah, it would. It would. That's not exactly what we want. Now, these earrings are not this earring. I don't have 2 of them. I only have one. This soon-to-be earring, maybe never earring, it is not very big. It's kind of a tiny one. So let's stop here. I'm going to take this sheet, just that much of it. Don't need that much, actually. You guys know if you have hung around here very often. I try not to make huge things with you. I have access to a lot of clay, but most people don't. So it's good if you can try things on a small scale, figure out what you like, and then you know what you're going to do, and then perhaps you make an investment in the clays that you need or want. But no, rarely do I ask you to dedicate tons of clay to anything. Okay, so let's just... My core is a little bit stiff. Yeah, it is. It is. Now, I also, as I'm working, I don't have a particular size in mind. Yeah, I don't. I do not. Now, this piece represents both earrings. So let's just close the end first. And this is kind of a teardrop shape. It's a little bit of an irregular teardrop. You can see that it's not just like evenly weighted like that, which is absolutely fine. I think that's a little more interesting, actually. We're not making drops. We are actually making post earrings. Just trying to close that on the end, like so. Now let's draw a point out of one side a little bit. Now the pointed end is actually going to be covered. You see, that's the point there. So I'm just going to draw that out a bit, like so, like that, and then flatten, and let's move the clay a bit so that we get this shape instead of the very regular teardrop. That's not what we want today. Not for these. Okay. All right. Now just imagine a line dividing this in half. You want this half and this half to be the same, right? So look at it from this angle. You might find that one side pooches out a little bit more. If that happens, you're going to push it in, try to move the clay to the other side. Just a goal. Okay, so let me tell you, I've never done this perfectly. Ever, 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 ever. I always cut a little bit off. You know what the good news with earrings is, though? I say this all the time. It's a good thing your face is between the two earrings, because people aren't going to notice if it's just a little off. You know what they do notice, though? If you haven't bothered to make mirror imaged earrings. Both earrings should not be going the same way. They should not be pointed in the same direction. You want one teardrop this way, and then you want the second one that way. It makes a huge difference. Huge. Okay? So always make sure that you're doing mirror images. All right, now I am just going to set this up on its side like so. Okay, like so. And then I'm going to slice through the middle. As nearly as I can, I'm going to do that. Now let me scoot over, because here's the thing. I can't get my head where it needs to be. So I am going to move it down here, because at least I can see it now. Okay. I'm just standing it up, and I'm going to take my thick blade so it doesn't torque as it's going through. There, I think, is the center. I'm going to take this down to the point and then slowly cut through the other end, okay? So, I mean, and you know what? That's actually pretty good for me. For me. That's very good for me. Yeah. Okay, so here they are. Now, this one's a little bit higher, a little bit larger, and a little bit higher. I'm going to say that's fine. Okay, now we're going to take slices off of this guy and put them on these guys. I like the size. I'm not going to change the size at all, but I am going to try to cut very, very, very thin. Like that. Okay, so let's cut two. I'm going to put one on one earring and then put the other one on the other earring. Oops. Now this is not a new cane. It's been around for a while. But even so, and cutting with my El Sharpo blade, like really sharp blade, nonetheless, you know, it kind of squished down a bit. So what you want to do is kind of pull it out with your little fingers like that. Just pull it out and try to restore the nice roundness. Now I'm going to try to find the very same spot, corresponding spot on the other earring. Down you go. Looks good. Here's looking at you. Okay. You are getting sleepy. Okay. Oops. Mistake. Doink. Okay. So the next two will go on. Pull out to round. Let's move these guys. Let's say about right there. I have dropsy. Okay, so I picked up something when I have to cut another one. I have to cut another one. It's a good thing I have so much. Okay. Wrong. This has to go down here. And let's cut another 2. Fill up those last little spaces. Boy, did I do a bad job there or what? Here, let me just start again. 1, 2. Oops. Okie dokie. All right, kids. We are almost there. There. It's kind of hanging over the edge. Not a problem. I'll get rid of it. Like about there. Yeah, okay. All right, I have to cut this off. I'm having a heck of a time picking up a dang blade. Stand that up on its side to cut. Okay. You all right? Do I have to adjust anything or add anything? I don't think so. I think I'm fine. Stand it up, cut. The cane has now become my blade rest. All right, so if we look at this guy, you can see, well, you can't really see, but I really did kind of roll these into the surface. So let's roll them in a bit, and I'll show you. So I'm just going to roll around the perimeter. I'm not going to try to completely form this nice, beautiful, seamless surface. No. I can feel it. Oh, shoot. Okay, so that's what happens when you pick up stuff on your tool. It happens to me a lot. Okay, so when you're smoothing things like this in, you can also improve the shape. See this little piece that's going like that out? Watch. By rolling it back in, I push it back in. See that little piece that's in? Let's say I want to push it out. I can roll it out. So you can absolutely adjust the shape as you go. You don't have to leave it the way it is. You can make it rounder. Okay, so let's do this guy. Might have put this one a little too close. It's possible. Okay, it isn't possible. I did. It's a little close. Am I going to live with? Yep, I am. I'm gonna live with it. Okay, so that's pretty good. I didn't really get it in there as tight as I wanted. But you know what? I think it looks good. Now I'm going to let this kind of drift toward this edge. I'm going to kind of roll it in that direction, like so, because the pieces are a little bit tight in through there, aren't they? Because my placement wasn't the best. Yeah, it wasn't, I admit it. But I can sort of move the whole cane by rolling in a certain way. Okay, so just practice that when you're integrating your cane slices into a mass, because you do have a certain amount of control over what happens. Well, you have more control than you think. Okay. Now I do want it to be somewhat flat here because that's where I'm going to put that clay, remember? So this is going to be underneath that black clay. So I'm going to try to make it kind of smoother here so that when I put that thin sheet, there's no like lumpiness. If that makes sense. All right, so there's one, and I will do the second one. Yeah, you know what, I should have moved that down a little bit further, but I did not. Perhaps I can kind of coax it down. I think I have the volume of clay here. So see how I'm moving it? So that you can do. That you definitely can do. All right. Okay, so let me do this one and then I'll be back. Okay, peeps, so the next thing I'm going to do is put this on these earrings. Okay. So let me cut a good spot. That will go in my... You know, this is always kind of a hard thing to do. Figure out exactly where to position so that, for instance, this piece runs across exactly the same place. So let me give this a try. How's that? All right. Now, the only thing I don't know is if there was enough space in between the two of them. I probably could have left a wider gap between the two pieces, but I think it's going to be okay. I'll just stretch it just a tiny bit there and there. Now, if I trim this away without stretching it at all, then this should be pretty much in the same place on both earrings. Okay, sometimes there's just that kind of stuff that's hard, and that is just the kind of thing that I go that I don't do well. Like, I'll be running on the, this one will be higher than the other one. Yeah, well, I do my best. I do my best. Okay, there's that guy. And then here, let's get this guy situated. Let's get this guy situated. Yeah. Stretch that just a tiny bit. And then do the same trimming. And when you're trimming like this, you just want the back to be flat. Okay, that's not bad. That is not bad. This one's a little more pointed, I think, than the other one, but thank heaven your face is between the earrings. All right, now the last thing I want to do, I want to put a little snake on. Orange, turk, lavender. I don't know that there's a wrong choice here. I could even do red. I could just do gold. Just roll a little piece of gold and wrap it around. I don't know. I think I'd like a color, though. I think it's going to be the lavender. As I said, I don't know that there are any wrong choices here. I love orange. But for this particular piece, I'm thinking that the lavender looks the best. I think the turquoise would work, but you know what? I think adding a bit of white to the turquoise would probably be better. Now, why are you doing that? See this? I don't like that, so I am just going to cut that away so that the lavender goes straight across instead of kind of drooping. It's kind of drooping at that point, so let me get rid of that. Right? It'd be nice if that line was more straight. So let's see. Let's just take a look. Yeah, that's better. Now that's straight across. Not a huge issue, but it's easy to fix, so why not fix it? Now, are you doing the same thing? Just a bit, yeah. Let's get rid of that little bit of clay. And let me just take you and go straight across. I think these are kind of cute. Simple enough. Simple enough to do. Let me draw a little bit of a point out. One is too dull and too rounded, and the other, and to make the snakes, I just rolled them. Now, let's think about this for a moment. I have to do some thinking. I'll be back. Okay, so they're looking a little plain to me. Yeah, just a little bit plain. And so, you know, I don't use a lot of crystals, but I use them a lot. Just as kind of accents, just a little accent, a little bit of sparkle here, a little bit of sparkle there. Okay, so I want to show you something. This is my little clay stuff box. In other words, everything in here is clay. So I make a lot of these little rings, and they're all cured. So I just, when I need one, I just grab it, and then I use liquid clay and I secure it. These are liquid clay and clay fake carnelian. I'm not sure they're very successful carnelian, but hey, this is more stuff I made. It's clay with liquid clay mixed with different stuff. This is gold, liquid gold on like a alizarin crimson kind of color. This is miscellaneous, I don't know, whatever I was doing there. And here are some silver rings. And I will put the instructions for how to make these. I find these extremely useful when I'm just putting things together. Sometimes you just need a little something. And that if you have a box like this with all these little things, even like little, like see, that is black clay with silver paint. Yeah. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff, and it comes in really, really handy. And it's all clay. Yeah, there we go. So I will put this, the instructions for how to make these puppies, in the class. Okay. All right, so let's use them because I like them. And the top is just a bit plain for me, so I am going to go ahead. I'm going to take a little bit of liquid clay, plop it on there. Take this guy, he's cured, as I said, push him in. Just push him in. Yeah, he's not going to be flat. He's not going to be embedded in the clay. That's fine. Doesn't have to be. Oops. Here we go. Just going to push it in because I don't want them to pop out, of course. Okay, now let's pick our crystal. Now, for the crystal, what I'm going to do is I'm just taking a bit of liquid clay and I'm going to put it right there in the hole, just like that. Like that. Now I'm going to select a crystal that I hope will just fall right into the space. This might be a little big. Actually, that might be the size. Let's check this out too. Hard to say. Okay, I'm going to take my picking pencil and let's just see about this big guy. Yeah, there we go. Right down in there. Big one. Okay, so the liquid clay has captured the crystal. Put this back in. I will give you, if I could give you one tip, if you get something like this, you are always to close it and put it back in a bag. Take those few moments to do that, because if this drops on the floor outside of the bag, you will have a very unhappy accident. Ask me how I know. Okay. All right. So that's just simple, just plain, just a little bit of a sparkle, not too much. I am going to throw this in the oven and I'll be back. Okay, peeps, so here they are. I'm just going to sand them just more or less to clean them up. Okay, so I'm starting with Auburnet. I'm not going to use the, not Auburnet, excuse me, I'm using micro mesh. Okay, so got soap in my water, and I'm just going to sand, just to try to clean the surface up a little bit. I'm not going to be buffing these, so I just need to clean them up. You know, when you sand canes, you're actually sanding down to the cleaner part of the cane. And by cleaner, I mean, you know, when we handle the canes, we're manipulating, we're rolling, we're pushing, we're touching, and it just sort of lightly smears the image. So just the lightest sanding kind of brings it, gets rid of that smeary part. And you get down to the clearer part of the cane image. Okay. Makes sense, right? Yeah, I think so. All right. So let me just sand this. I don't even think I'm going to go any further down. I'm using Micro Mesh 1500 grit, and I think that's fine. Micro Mesh is a product that's made for automotive use, so it's much, much finer than Auburnet. You would never take Auburnet to your car, would you? No, don't do it. Don't even think about it. That stuff would scratch up the surface of your paint like you can't believe. But this is actually made for automotive paint, so you know that it's a much gentler product. Okay. Yeah, sanding down to the better part of the cane, getting rid of all the schmutz on the top. Okay, peeps, gonna rinse them off, and then we're gonna back it. Well, back them. Okay, so what I am going to use the Auburnet for, now this is the P180, is just to smooth the back of the earring. Yeah. I don't want it lumpy. I want the back to be perfectly flat. No lumpiness. Let's take a look. Well, that is looking really good to me. Just a little bit more. Let's take a look. I already did this one. Just a few more. Just a bit more. Can't hurt. Okay. Now we're ready to back our earrings. And you know what? I just take my Auburnet and I just shake the grit out. Somebody asked, do I rinse it? No, you know, I don't put it in water. I really like it. It tends to really hold the clay grit in it. And yeah. All right. Now, some of you might feel that you should wear a mask and stuff. I think that's great. I don't, and perhaps I should, but I don't. All right. So ordinarily, you know, if I fall into my usual pattern, I would use black to back the earrings, but I think these are really cute and they're kind of funny. They actually kind of look like fish or bugs to me, but I really like them a lot. So what I'm going to do is back with a color, this berry color. Okay, let me get my findings. Okay, peeps, let's glue the posts on. I'll put one there and one about right there. Wasn't exactly sure which way they should go. Decided that the black part would go up and the green down. Yep. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to let those sit for just a moment. Actually going to push them down. You want to make sure, I say this all the time, I sound like a broken record, but you want to make sure that the finding is glued to the clay, not the glue. Yeah, I've done that before. I have done it before. All right, peeps. I am going to let this sit for just a moment, let the glue set. All right, so I have rolled my berry colored clay through setting number 4, 5. Oh, this is 5. Okay, let's do 5. 5 is going to be fine. Now I'm going to texture by taking my sponge, rolling these both through setting number 5 on the pasta machine, rolling them through together. This will texture the clay. Okay, good. Now let's apply some liquid clay to the back, not too much, just enough so that the clay grabs, the liquid, excuse me, grabs the clay. You put too much on, it starts slipping around like crazy. You just want it to be tacky. You don't necessarily want it to be wet. All right. Okay, get it on there, push it down, trim away the excess. There's like so much clay here, it just gets in the way, makes it more difficult to deal with. And now I'm just going to take my blade and I'm going to scoot it around the perimeter of the cured clay. Now here, you just have to get in there and cut it around. It's not difficult, it's just a little bit fussy. Okay, let's do this. And you just want it to be tidy, you know, you don't want it to look sloppy at all. I can't pick up my dang blade. Okay. I like that little berry, you know, the berry color just kind of peeping out. As I said, ordinarily, I just, you know, my default is black clay. Nothing wrong with it. It's where I always go, but you know, why not? Try a color. There we go. So there's one. Now I have to do the second earring, and you know what? Why don't I just put my signature cane on right now? I put it on one earring. I don't really know which, right or left, just once. Okay, let me finish these. Then they're going in the oven. Then I'll be back. Okay, peeps, here we are. The earrings are done. Yes, and I put them on this card. Now, some of you have asked about the cards. You know, I used to put my jewelry on business cards. And that made sense to me. But, you know, I love these. So I decided these are far more interesting than my business cards. Yeah, so this is just a selection of old, I don't know what, magazine cover ads. Anyway, I love them. And I got them from Temu. Temu. I know some of you are going to be like, Temu, what? Well, I did. And they were cheap and they're cute. Look, it's a retro party. Vrime. What's Vrime? What's Vrime? She'll be loyal if you'll be true. Vrime. Cake. Okay, so that's it for this little class. So you learned how to make some simple earrings. You made a simple balanced jelly roll, did a little silk screening, painted a little clay, and made some earrings. And I like these. They look a little like fish and a little like one-eyed bugs, but I like it a lot. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thanks for joining me. If you liked it, please like. If you want to see more, then you might consider hitting subscribe. So thank you very much. I am Donna Kato, and I'm signing off. Bye.